So, a couple of weeks ago, I made a video about the naive idealism of Lily Aldrin that would see her believing that she can have her cake and eat it too, especially as it pertains to Marshall, which was what led to her walking away and their breakup just weeks before their wedding. I highlighted how the milk episode showed that Ted was the first person who had an inkling about Lily's dissatisfaction, and whilst he tried to talk her out of going to get the milk, he was unfortunately unable to do so and was left stranded as a result. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because that episode helped to show just how staunchly different Ted and Lily are from an ideological perspective. And Aldrin Justice, which is the episode I'll be covering in today's video, takes things a step further in that regard. But before I get into all of that, hi, I'm Noria, and welcome to my channel. If this is your first time finding it, please note that I am doing my first ever watch of How I Met Your Mother, and as such, I am making weekly videos sharing my thoughts and observances of these characters as I go along. Sometimes I make my predictions about how I think their stories could go. Sometimes it's just a straightforward analysis of the episode and what I think it could possibly set up in future seasons. This is one such episode, and because I am enjoying this series of blind analysis of the show, I always ask that people should please refrain from dropping spoilers in the comments. If you would like to chat with each other, however, about future events, I am of course not holding you from doing so. I would just suggest you put a spoilers ahead warning at the start of your comments, put in a couple of asterisks so that the click to read more notification pops up. That way you can have your discussions and I can skip over those comments to avoid spoilers. But for those who are keeping track, I am currently on How I Met Your Mother Season 2, Episode 6, titled Aldrin Justice. And the events of the episode definitely cemented for me how Ted and Lily really are on different sides when it comes to matters of responsibility. And my prediction that it is possible that this is something that the show will keep revisiting and rehashing in future episodes. But before I go into all of that, a synopsis of the episode. As always, I will leave timestamps so that if you just want to skip right over to my thoughts, you can do so. But for those who want the full package, Aldrin Justice as an episode picks things up with Ted's job and the skyscraper penis that his firm's lead designer is so insistent on presenting to their client. And yes, I segued from full package to penis talk on purpose. Sue me. Anyway, the episode starts with Ted talking to his kids about how Lily was still on a quest to find herself now that her art fellowship didn't quite work out as she had hoped. As Lily tells Robin, all she's ever done is teach kindergarten, but now she's looking for something different, something more. She wants to go out there and save the world, figure out what her passion actually is. What then follows is a montage of Lily's many choices on what her calling could potentially be. First, she's convinced it's to be a life coach. Then she decides that she's going to be a marine biologist. Then it's slam poetry that's in. But immediately afterwards, she wants to be a beekeeper. And as at when Robin catches up with Ted on Lily's newest goal, it is to become a singer for a punk rock band. Clearly, Lily is suffering from the indecision that comes with dealing with a sudden shift in your hopes and dreams and having to pivot to something new whilst wanting to walk away from what was old and familiar that she was quite clearly good at and attached to. Yes, I am talking about her being a kindergarten teacher, but if it also seems like it could possibly be referring to her relationship with Marshall as well, you would be right about that. It is a not so subtle pointing out of that connection, which makes what happens at the end of the episode hit even more. But we'll get to that in a bit. Anyway, Ted is curious about what exactly is funding this spate of Lily trying out different callings for size and is tickled pink to learn that she took on a part-time job at a luau-themed restaurant. Yes, people, there's a ton of cultural appropriation going on in the 2 minutes that was them showing us Lily at work that I'm surprised they were able to fit it all in within that time frame. Anyway, Lily is frustrated as her friends show up at her work, Robin inclusive, and proceed to tease her, and so she quits. Now that she's without a job, however, Robin points out that Ted's firm is most likely hiring since their last executive assistant quit due to a fatphobic comment from Ted. Lily gets the job and we follow her to Ted's firm, where we realize that his boss and the head architect/designer is no one else but Walter White. Yes, I know this was way before Bryan Cranston played in Breaking Bad, but it didn't stop my brain from chuckling when he showed up and noting that he probably works as an architect on the weekends when he's not teaching high school chemistry and cooking meth on the other days. I crack myself up, I swear. Anyway, Lily quickly settles in, gets a first-hand peek into the quite obvious male genitalia that is masquerading as a skyscraper that Ted's boss has been working on, and also got to witness firsthand how big of a jerk Walter White, sorry, I meant Hammond Druthers, actually is. He's the type of narcissistic asshole who loves to hear himself talk, bullies everybody he comes in contact with, dismisses others' ideas, and exists only to stroke his own ego. Ted, like the rest of his colleagues, has learned to adapt and roll with it. But all of this comes as a shock to Lily, as she can't understand why Druthers is being such a dick. Ted explains that it is because of all the pressure that the partners are putting on him, as the bank who wants their building built in Spokane is a very important client. And like he had told Robin earlier, this job has the ability to either make or break his firm. Amidst all the laughter about the penis jokes, Robin asks Ted if he's shown Lily the design he's been working on for the building, explaining to Lily that Ted's been working on a not-so-phallic sketch in his free time to cope with the bonkers design the head architect seems to be so proud of. Lily is, of course, of the opinion that Ted should show Druthers his design, a suggestion that horrifies Ted, who points out that he's a no-name architect compared to Hammond Druthers, and there is too much at stake for him to put his work forward to his boss. Clearly, he is team absolutely mustn't rock the boat and piss off the boss. Lily, on the other hand, is not having it, as she thinks to herself that Druthers is acting just like her kindergarten kids and believes that, as with her kids, such behavior has to be punished. Of course, Ted has no idea what she's planning, so one night after presenting Druthers with the styrofoam trees the latter had asked for him to include in the design, because clearly the joke that this man legit is building a penis-shaped building complete with pubic hair is something that we needed hammered home in the episode. Druthers informs Ted that his baseball, which has been signed thrice by Pete Rose, is missing. Ted doesn't pay it much mind at first, but after looking through Lily's drawers in search of supplies he needs to fix the styrofoam trees, he discovers said baseball hidden in her locker. When he confronts Lily about it, she informs him of what she has tagged Aldrin Justice, where just like she does with the kids back when she was teaching kindergarten, she punishes the errant child by taking away their beloved toy when they are mean in order to teach them how to play nice with others. And that is something she's been doing for a while. Hell, even the car keys she got Ted were ones she shoplifted from a store after the salesperson was rude to Robin. Ted rightfully points out to Lily that she can't apply the same rule in their workplace since, one, Druthers isn't a kindergartner, and two, unlike the kindergartners who know why their toy was taken away from them, Druthers has no idea what he's done that warranted the theft of his ball. However, Lily hits him with the whammy that is the fact that she actually left Druthers a note basically telling him what he did wrong. A horrified Ted insists that Lily is messing with powers beyond her comprehension and can actually screw over his career, all for the sake of the identity crisis she's currently undergoing. But Lily isn't listening and insists that she doesn't like Ted's tone, leaving Ted and Robin at the booth, but not before she grabs the thrice signed by Pete Rose baseball and storms off. However, it turns out that Ted really does know his boss way more than Lily ever could, as Druthers shows up at work to scathingly read the notes that Lily had left behind, informing him that if he doesn't stop being mean, he will start losing other things in his office as well. Druthers, it turns out, is not a kindergartner and is instead an adult with power. Power he wields indiscriminately by declaring that he wants his baseball returned to him by the end of the day. Otherwise, starting the next morning, he will start firing 3 people every hour. Lily is convinced the man is bluffing and actually plans to grab his AirPods too, which, girl, Ted, though, isn't willing to risk it and demands that Lily return the ball. When she insists that she wouldn't, as she thinks Druthers is merely throwing a tantrum and that she would only return the ball if Ted shows Druthers is alternate plans for the bank, Ted hits her with an ultimatum. She either returns the ball or she's fired. Lily insists on sticking by her guns, and so Ted fires her. She hands him the ball, declares that he at least has won now, and storms off. Ted hands the ball to Drothers, who basically tricks Ted into loudly declaring that Lily was off her rockers, and then pretends that this is all Ted's opinion, not like anyone is buying it or even listening, actually. But anyway, the clients show up to look at the design, and as one would expect, they are appalled that the firm wants them to have a penis-shaped building to represent their bank in the eyes of their customers. Just as they are about to storm off and most likely wreck the architectural firm, Ted remembers Lily and Robin's urgings and finds himself blurting out that he has been working on another design that he can show them. And although Drothers tries to silence him, Ted is able to present his designs to the clients who love it. Although, to be fair, I'm sure they were just relieved that it was not shaped like a penis. And that is how he got his very first building commissioned. He thanks Lily for a kick in the pants when they are out celebrating his win at McLaren's and tells her that he can get her old job back at the firm if she's interested. But Lily turns him down and says that she knows what she wants to be now, and we see that she's returned back to teaching her kindergarten class, complete with her way of teaching the kids, i.e. I am taking away your toy and would only return it back to you when you've learned how to play nice with others approach. The end. Of course, the episode also has a side story involving Barney and Marshall's cougar of a law professor who has him putting in the work, but that isn't the focus of this video. No. Like I said at the start, the entirety of Aldrin Justice as an episode merely works to further cement my belief that yes, Lily really does go through life with an idealistic approach, and that this is something that she would always clash with Ted about. Because here is the thing, I think her reintegration back into the crew has gone swimmingly well so far, that it is easy for us to gloss over the fact that for the previous summer, her actions in walking away to pursue the art fellowship, which ended up not turning out the exact way in which she had hoped it would, which in turn meant that she had sacrificed her and Marshall's happiness for nothing, in Ted's opinion and eyes, is something that Ted most likely has not forgotten. I think it is a ticking time bomb that Ted would most likely still bring up because one of the gang, E, is the one who is rooming with Marshall and so got a first-hand view into how devastated Marshall was at the breakup. He's also the one who has been friends with Lily and Marshall from the very beginning, having met Marshall on their first day at college, and so he's had a front row seat to their relationship from its very early origins. And I don't think all of that goes away that easily. The way Ted seems to be okay with it just reads to me like he's bottling things up, and we see what happens when Ted keeps all those thoughts bottled up until Lily does something he considers extremely selfish that would have ramification on others, and then he blows up. When Ted tries to convince Lily to hand over the ball that she took from his boss, she doesn't want to and is pretty insistent that her way is the one that works, that she knows exactly what the outcome would be because she's been teaching kindergartners and that is how she's always handled their tantrums. In that moment, Lily is speaking with absolute authority, like she knows how the entire situation would play out, which would have been believable if we, as the audience and Ted, didn't know that she's only been working at the firm and for this man for only a couple of days. A character is one who believes she knows what is best for everyone, and we see this budding frustration in Ted as he listens to her speak with certainty that she knows how Drothers would act once he reads her note. He would calm down, stop being mean, and the entire office would be a nicer place to work. Ted, however, knows that life isn't all roses. He is the one who stuck out his neck to have his friend hired by the firm. His boss, who he's been working for years, is one he knows wouldn't tolerate such behavior, whose narcissism would feel threatened by a note like that, actually. And so we see Ted, who is at the end of his rope, declare that whilst they, and by they, he's speaking primarily about himself, by the way, so whilst they have tolerated her prolonged mental breakdown with her constantly changing career path, she's crossed the line and is now messing with his career. And all I could think was, if we substitute his career for Marshall, it still fits as him calling her out for her actions directly affecting and harming someone else who isn't her, while she gets to continue on her merry way, believing that her choices are always right. Of course, this might just be me projecting, and maybe Ted isn't having all those thoughts, but that is how I read them. But of course, we then come to the part of the video where we consider who is right in this episode, Lily or Ted. Because I know that it is easy to run with the belief that it is Lily who is in the right. What with the end of the episode seeing Ted finally find his courage to make the presentation to the client, which ended up saving the firm and had him directly promoted to project manager. But at the same time, there's also the fact that we see Lily return to teaching kindergarten, which is a subtle way for the show to point out that whilst Lily might have had a point in her methods working, they only work for the kids she is teaching, like Ted points out to her. In the world outside her classroom, ordering justice doesn't mean much with adults who get to make their own decisions and can make others suffer in turn. In fact, it is merely a way for Lily to continue to run roughshod over the world with her ideals, ignoring whatever damage or harm that she might leave in her wake, as long as she considers her own actions justified. Take, for example, her reacting by shoplifting the khakis she gave Robin, who in turn gifted them to Ted. There is no concern about what the ramifications would be for the salesperson, if they would be blamed for it or if they would accuse another customer of being the one who stole the khakis. In Lily's world, her privilege blinds her to any suffering that isn't hers because they don't matter as long as she is able to sit justified in her ideals. The fact that she is so easily dismissive of Drotha's very clear threat that he will start firing staff members by the next morning if his ball doesn't turn up, when the one who would know what Drotha's is or isn't capable of is Ted, who knows what the man is actually like since he's been working for him for years, and so is justifiably terrified that people would start losing their jobs because Lily has a point to prove. A point that she has no skin in the game in how it concludes, because remember, she's still shopping around for a potential career. This is not her final destination. Compare that to the staff of the firm who have dedicated years of their life and work to get to where they are at the moment and could potentially lose it all because Lily wants to show Ted that Drotha's is no different from the kids she used to teach. We see in the episode that Lily will continue to follow the path that rings true to her, even if it inconveniences others, and it's such an interesting way to show how she's quite like the kids she teaches in that regard, with a myopic focus on what she thinks is right, an unwillingness to budge, and a belief that people exist within the binaries that is present in her classroom. And of all her friends in her life, the one person who calls her out on that is Ted. And I personally think it's a way for the show to lay the foundation for what would most likely be the row at some point about Lily having waltzed right back in with the expectation that she could pick things up from where she left them without any troubles or care about all that happened while she was away. And when that happens, just like with this episode, she and Ted would be on opposite sides of the spectrum, forcing their friend group to have to choose who they would side with, ideologically speaking. Because whilst Lily is filled with all this idealism, Ted instead worries about the practicalities of who would be affected by her choices. And I recognize the irony of that because Ted, as we know, is idealistic when it comes to romance. When it's about matters of the heart, he takes the Lily Aldrin approach to life with full-on blindness. But outside of romance, however, he is more given to the practicality of things, which is not really Lily's forte, at least not with what I've seen so far in the show. And like I mentioned earlier, I think the show was a bit subtle in how they worked in the comparison, at least for me, the comparison between Lily having to go back to the safety and comfort of being a kindergarten teacher after she tried out all of these other job opportunities and prospects and realized that they don't work for her, and her having to come back to the comfort and safety that is her relationship with Marshall after she initially left thinking that, okay, there might be so much possible for her out there, and she realizes that what she wants is the consistency, the assurance, the foreknowledge, the understanding that she has in her relationship with Marshall. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you disagree with me about my thoughts on the episode, or maybe you think I'm right about a point or two. Let me know in the comments. Like this video if you've watched this far and haven't done so yet. Share this if you want. Support me on Patreon if you can. If you can't, however, do consider checking out my other channels. One of them is my gaming channel and the other one holds my ASMR content. I have both linked in the description box if they sound like something you might be interested in. Whatever the case may be, however, I will see you tomorrow with a new video. Until then, do remember, obsessing over the things you love, perfectly valid coping mechanism.